Hello, everybody, and welcome back. It's play-by-play off air and online, as always, every Thursday evening. And we promised you bigger and better in season 2. And I tell you what, this week we are certainly bringing you bigger and better with all the sporting events that took place over the past weekend. But before we get to who we are bringing to you in the form of bigger and better, as always, my co-host Adrian Endley sits on the other side of the table there. Adrian, good evening, big guy.
Good evening, Morgie. How you doing?
Yeah, I'm very good, thank you. Anything that just jumps at you straight away in terms of what has been a fantastic sporting weekend?
Yeah, no, definitely fantastic. Immediately, the first thing I think about is rugby. Obviously, the Six Nations, big result in the Six Nations.
Massive.
France losing to Scotland. Who would have thought? Also Italy beating England as well. So lots of good results. And of course, if we're going to stick with rugby, the Blitzbox as well, winning as well. So a good rugby weekend, but I feel like the focus everyone's thinking about is Formula One.
100%. I've got so many questions when it comes to the rugby in terms of which is bigger. Is Italy beating England a bigger result than Scotland beating France? And we'll say that a little bit later in the show. As you mentioned, Formula One, and who better to get on the show than our very own Formula One expert. Everybody make some noise. Delucia Daniels.
Hi guys.
What up, D?
Hi. It's so nice to be back. Season 2.
I
what
know.
a pleasure.
Can you believe it? Time has flown by, and we're back at the first race of Formula One already. Australian Grand Prix. So many changes.
Yeah.
I had to go and do a deep dive into what are the actual changes. What are these things? Like, there's no more DRS. There's this. It's some of it's electrical. 50 the lingo is wild.
Yes.
So before we get to the Australian Grand Prix, which is of course the main focus, let's quickly talk about. Take a step back as if you're the week before the Formula One. Let's talk about the changes, and let's talk about, are these good or bad for Formula One? And then based on the first race, answer us again.
Do you know what's so interesting? And I'm happy you pointed out asking me again afterwards, because initially going into the season, we've had a complete 50-50 split between the internal combustion engine and then the electrical components. So they've taken some of Formula E's little elements and brought it into Formula One.
I'm absolutely not a fan of, let me just tell you. Because were you at the Formula, sorry to interrupt you, were you at the Formula E here?
I wasn't, but I saw like highlights of it.
It's nothing compared to Formula One.
Yeah. It sounds different. There's a different way you have to race. So it doesn't come down to pure racing talent or what you have in the car mechanically. It comes down to strategy at the end of the day. So when you came into, preseason testing, we kind of saw all these things of the battery. The battery was the one thing they were talking about, how to deploy the battery. And they were also talking about the fact there was active aerodynamics now where the rear and front wings are able to move depending on where you are on the circuit.
Yeah.
We also have the overtake mode and the boost mode, which are two very different things. Overtake mode is very similar to DRS in a sense of you have to be within 1 second. Boost mode you can use anywhere on the track. So,
but hold on. So you can use boost. I'm going to ask lots of questions today. So you can use boost mode anywhere on the track, and you have it for as long. Is there a certain amount of boost? So you get 10 units.
Yeah.
You can use. Is that how you?
It kind of feels like a bit of a video game. If you have I always think of Need for Speed Underground.
Was like the NOS.
It's like NOS. So it basically gives you an added amount of power for you to go, but you need to recharge your batteries enough to be able to have that energy set out for you. Okay. So
and how much boost do you get? Depending on how much you build up.
It depends.
But how quickly does it, then the reverse question is, how quickly does it wear down?
As soon as it's finished. It's
so literally do you have 30 seconds
button.
of boost mode, or do you have
It depends on the track, because remember, you don't get 30 seconds of a straight, for example. So if you have a shorter straight, you're going to have a shorter amount of time to boost it, for example. That's why you have to time your overtakes.
Would you say that's more tactic driven?
Absolutely.
Oh, really?
And this is what I saw with this race, because going in, the initial idea was to have more overtakes. The FIA and Formula One just wanted to be more... I want to say instinct driven, and how it was back in the day. We sort of overtakes. The cars are more nimble now. They're smaller. The tires are different. So you would think there'd be more overtaking opportunities. Did that happen at the Australian Grand Prix? Absolutely. We went up by probably triple the amount of overtakes in comparison to the previous year. But at what expense did that happen? Because then you also have to think a lot of what is going on, like you said, is tactical. It's no longer about pure racing pace and the driver's ability to overtake, because half the time they are spending watching the little thing on their steering wheel. Okay, I have to deploy, I have to stop doing harvesting my battery this time, and then I have to use my overtake here, and this is what's coming up next. So you're focusing so much on the strategic side of things and how to deploy this battery efficiently, as opposed to just straight out going flat out.
And then my question is, if I look just specifically now this weekend, it's probably a very difficult question to answer. To answer, but the lap times, how do they differ from last year? Like, is the car faster or slower?
It's still quick. I think it's. Maybe I shouldn't. I'm just going to say this, but I think, racing.
Say it. We have freedom here. We have freedom.
I mean, really, I think that what they're doing is mainly for fans, so fans don't get bored. I feel like in this generation, we become so bored with the monotonous of racing. It's why races like Monaco became so tedious, because you knew that the first three are most likely going to end up as the top three, unless something super drastic happens in the middle. I enjoyed Sunday's race a lot. I really liked it. But on the other hand, I also thought that there was a lot of other parts of a driver's brain that they actually have to put into place now, especially older drivers who, like Fernando Alonso, for example, who now has to change the way that they race to suit the strategic side of it.
So if you're I'm a rugby purist, right? So you ask me, do I like? Let's just use the analogy for a viewer that's maybe out there that's a rugby fan, for example, like the Varsity Cup and this after they score try, they can go back to the halfway line. It's very American football.
Yes.
Yeah. As a rugby purist, I'm not the biggest fan of it. That's honest, right? But it could work, may not work. But it makes the rugby a lot more exciting.
Yeah.
Now you take this to Formula One. Does the overtake mode and the boost mode, does it make it more exciting? But for the purist, it's taking away from the skill of a driver, because I feel like you're more of a purist than you are just a fan.
Yeah, you absolutely nailed that for me. I mean, if you look at the opening 9 laps alone, George Russell and Charles Leclerc, that was the most exciting battle I've seen in years, having overtaken each other 7 times in those 9 laps alone.
Sure.
And I think if it hadn't been for Isaac Hadjar bringing out the safety car in lap 11, because he had an engine failure, I think it would have gone on a bit more. On pure pace alone, Ferrari is really up there. And I'm actually so happy to say that Ferrari is really up there with the Mercedes. The Mercedes, let's remember, they've got a different compression ratio to everybody else, which technically is illegal. It is illegal, but they have until beginning of the summer break to fix that. But
what? They have it's illegal, but they're racing with it.
Yeah, the FIA said it's fine. Yeah.
Is that why everyone's so mad at Mercedes right
Yes.
now? Because, I mean, there was also this term being used that you also used a lot in the build-up called sandbagging, where it seemed like Mercedes weren't really showing their full potential in all the sort of practices.
Yeah.
And, well, clearly it worked because they came 1-2 in this race.
Guys, a 10-second gap. That is ridiculous between the Mercedes and the Ferraris.
Yeah.
And the Ferraris are not slow. Let me emphasize that. Ferrari is not slow. The way that they also got
How can they be allowing
off,
this though? I don't understand.
they said it's fine for now. There's a lot of terms and conditions and
Why
things
would
that
the
they've
other
looked
teams not been
into.
adopting that same?
I mean, they haven't changed it yet because the initial compression ratio stays that.
Yeah.
Mercedes now just have to match it, and they've given them time to do that. But at the same time, I also feel like if you look at how Ferrari started, so in preseason testing, I don't think this was talked about enough, when they had to practice their reaction times to getting off of their starting blocks, for example, Mercedes were struggling and Ferrari were the fastest to get off the blocks. It proved to be correct as well in the race because Charles Leclerc went from 3rd all the way to 1st. And into this first corner, you kind of saw the Ferrari just getting away from everybody. And then George Russell did come up. Kimi did have a really bad start. Liam Lawson struggled a lot with his. He said he didn't know what happened. The car just wouldn't go. Again, batteries, focusing on electrical components. It doesn't make for the most traditional sport as we know it to continue. But I guess this is the new evolved process of motor racing.
It takes me back. Because I've got a lot of friends in motorsport. And a lot of them call it Formula Yawn. Because... it is like they say, and so I get the innovation that they may be trying to bring sort of to the sport to try and get more viewers, make it more exciting, because watching cars go round and round. I mean, so let's then now focus on the Australian Grand Prix.
Yeah.
Does this, the new format, the new technology, does this play into the hands of anyone specific? What happened to Oscar Piastri? Talk me through that. What happened to Max?
In his home race as well.
In his home race.
Shame.
Unpack the actual Formula One this past weekend. What is it? 5 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday morning.
Yeah.
I was doing the cycle tour at the time, so I didn't catch much, but I caught the highlights. But if you look at this past weekend now, unpack that specific race for us.
Okay, so let's start with Oscar Piastri. You've got a feel for this guy. Seriously, I feel like Leclerc has passed down that home race curse to Oscar, and they made a joke a few years ago saying that Oscar wanted to be a Monegasque person, and Charles Leclerc's like, I'll adopt you. So I feel like he's got this home race curse. He hasn't been able to really just get it in there in Melbourne. And, he grew up just a few minutes away from the circuit.
Yeah.
So if you look at how it was at Albert Park this weekend for him specifically, he says it's a mixture of a lot of different things. When they had gone out, he said that he hit the curb. So that's the first thing. He hit the curb. Unbeknownst to him at the time, he had over 100 more kilowatts of power than he normally would. So by hitting the curb at that power, they don't know. Remember, all this was controlled by the garage and trying to figure things out before the race and everything. By hitting the curb and going with so much power, it just made for a recipe of disasters, really, for him just to spin out and crash. So he said they're just still trying to figure it out. And it's unfortunate that it happened.
It was in the warm-up lap.
Yes, not even the warm-up lap. It was way.
I feel like it's so unfortunate though that it's the first race of the season that happens to be his home one. So obviously, I feel like when you do your first race, there are still things that you're figuring out. Like you can do all the practices and testing and all that, but like coming on the day to actually race the Formula One race is a whole different story. So just very unfortunate that it happens to be his home one.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I will say though, this little bit of optimism for Mr. Piastri is the fact that Isaac Hadjar also crashed last year in his first race, and he ended up being promoted to Red Bull and had a brilliant season.
Okay.
I don't think this is any indication of what's to come from McLaren, because Lando did a decent job. Wasn't great. He ended fifth. He was not up there with the Mercedes and the Ferraris. He was there with Max Verstappen, the two of them, fifth and sixth. But I think that
I don't know. I find
for
that so weird.
Piastri, there is still a bit of optimism that is still to come for the 23 races coming up for the rest of the season. Overall, we know Mercedes 1-2, George ending on top of the podium, then Kimi, and then we had Charles Leclerc. It was interesting because still, we spoke about sandbagging, you mentioned it. Charles Leclerc said, I still think that Mercedes is hiding a lot of their power. He still thinks that they can go faster.
Oh, that's a scary thing.
And they are already quick. They are the quickest. So going into China this weekend for a sprint race, they only have one practice session. Now, for those people who were eliminated, remember only 18 drivers ended up finishing the race.
Yeah.
We still have people who got disqualified or not just got out the race, had engine problems, whatever. They are not going into Shanghai with only one practice session, and then you're going straight into sprint qualifying, and then a sprint, and then race qualifying.
Why is that the case?
For sprint weekends, the format is basically all teams have one practice session. After that practice session, they go straight into sprint qualifying for the Saturday sprint. After the sprint race, if your car is fine and you don't crash it, you get to go into race qualifying, and then Sunday we have our race.
So talk me through the sprint again. How does that work?
So sprint is basically a shortened version of the Grand Prix. Everything basically stays the same. It's just lesser laps.
Okay, and how many laps is it? Do you know?
Off the top of my head, no, but we can always check.
Yeah. Fair
But
enough.
it is just a bit shorter than a normal race. It just makes it more exciting. But what I think is going to be nice for us to see with the racing, with these new regulations, is that you are going to see different tactics being used. Because it's now just not about, okay, the pit stop windows and when are we going to change tires, because now it's also about at what point on the circuit am I able to maximize my battery? Because that is going to allow you to do your overtakes and to be able to manage your racing opportunities. I think you saw a lot of people, you'll see with Charles Leclerc, George Russell, there was Ollie Behrman as well, and Arvid Lindblad in the Racing Bull, where they will overtake in one corner using the boost mode or the overtake mode. Your battery then gets drained, but the person behind you hasn't used their battery yet.
So then they just come
past you. So it's kind of like Mario Kart. I genuinely feel like this is a bit of a video game here, where the reason why George and Leclerc, as entertaining as it was switching the whole time was because of that reason, where one is not using the battery, they're harvesting, and then the other one is deploying all their power. So it's a lot of tactical issues trying to figure out basically who can understand this track and its abilities to maximize what I've got in my car.
Yeah.
Okay, so race is done. The results are out there. What do you give us? Who you say Mercedes? You still think are potentially holding on to some power? Is it going to be a Lando Max story again? You say Ferrari are very much up there. If you look at it, I mean, Mercedes 1-2, Ferrari 3-4.
Yeah.
What do you make of what's to come for the rest of the season?
I said it at the end of last year
also,
already.
I want you to mention the newbies that have just come into Formula One. I see they finished, 16th and 17th or something, or 16th and 18th, whatever it is. Give us a little bit of a breakdown there.
So I think I said at the end of last year, my driver to win is George Russell. I think
You did say that. Why?
it would be silly not to, based on how well Mercedes had been through their development era already and how much time and effort they'd put into it. There were rumors circulating towards the middle of last year that Mercedes were the ones to beat. And you have to kind of follow that thread, because you know what they say, where there's smoke, there's fire.
Yeah.
There has to be something in it for you to say that.
Yeah.
And they've proven correctly. I mean,
Yeah.
what they've done this weekend is an abomination, really.
Is
It's brilliant.
George a fantastic driver, or
I
is
mean,
it the
he
car?
wouldn't. George would not have won Formula 2 and Formula 3 in his rookie season if he wasn't a great driver. Let's
Point.
just start there.
Good point.
What's really cool about this 1-2 this weekend as well, if you look at Kimi, is it's the first time that it's been a 1-2 of a full Mercedes junior lineup, because both of them started with the junior program.
Sure.
So it's nice to see that being used and
Yeah,
developed.
yeah.
I will also say Mercedes is still my team for the year. It's also me saying this as a McLaren fan. I do love McLaren, but I just think that where they are is just leaps and bounds ahead of everybody else. Looks like Hamilton is coming back to life.
Yes.
I don't think he ever left. I just think someone just drained his battery a little bit, and now he's come back, and he's the only driver that had something positive to say about these new cars.
Wow.
And he said he really loved it. He wished it was a longer race. He said if
did say
it was
that.
5 laps long, he probably would have caught up to Leclerc. But I think that with how he has taken in, which is so funny because you would think like the older drivers would struggle to adapt.
Yeah.
He's really been enjoying it. And I think in this race you could kind of see it. Just
But
to
I think
remind everyone, he also won the Chinese sprint last year.
Yeah.
So maybe history will repeat itself.
But you also talk about, tactics being a big thing. Hamilton is a massive tactician,
Yeah.
if you know what I mean. Like he's so deeply engrossed in Formula One. I mean, I've heard of, I've got friends that work at the factory in what's the factory? The Mercedes factory.
Yeah.
And they say he spends every minute of every day at the factory learning, studying, in the simulation, like just wanting to, like, he overemphasizes everything.
Yeah.
So if you're a tactician of sorts, then I think the new rules and the new regulations and the new car kind of plays into your hands.
It's probably why you see guys like Arvid Lindblad, who's our only rookie this season in Racing Bulls, doing so well, because they also grew up in a generation where we played a lot of video games. It helps when you're on a simulator as well. Yes, it doesn't emulate everything, but it helps you a lot in order to get those tactics, knowing where your breaking points are, how to use the power. All those things do come into effect. Max Verstappen didn't have a bad race. I mean, from 20th in the grid to ending 6th, that's really impressive. Yes, he said that this is not exactly what Formula One's supposed to be. This
Yeah,
is
I feel like
Formula
he's
E on
very
steroids.
unhappy with.
Oh, really? Is
with
that
the
what he
setup.
says?
He's not happy with everything. That's the regulation change, because he said it's not racing. The point of being a Formula One driver has always been to go as fast as you can. You can't do that here. You cannot be the fastest on the straight, because you have to think about when to deploy your power and using battery. You have to think about those things now. So you can't just be like, yeah, let's go. Let's
Do you agree with him?
I do. And it's funny enough because Lando has changed his mind about it as well. Lando came into preseason testing, and after Verstappen had made the comment of, this is Formula E on steroids, Lando then says, well, if he wants to retire, he can retire. Look at it now. Lando has now said, I actually understand what Max is saying, because it feels like you're basically artificial, like it's an artificial race. It doesn't feel like it's a natural instinct anymore.
Sure.
Because you're having to think about so many other different components. And I think it was even shown when they were in Q3 during qualifying, where Kimi had a part of his car fall off and Lando had driven over it. And it was so obvious if you were looking at the track that there was something there. But he said he actually didn't see it because he was so busy focusing on all the buttons on his steering wheel and trying to figure things out and which mode he's supposed to be in. They're so focused on what's happening down here, you can't actually just be a natural racing driver. Yeah.
Really?
It takes away from the spirit of the sport, I guess.
But surely with like the longer they do it,
Yeah.
the more like natural it will become. So maybe this is just like growing pains for the new
like
system.
everything, the problem with everything until it's like let the dust settle a little bit,
Yes.
let the hype of it settle. Okay, looking forward quickly before we let you go. Looking forward to this weekend. What's your make of it? You just spoke about Hamilton being the defending sprint race champion in China. What do you make of? I mean, where do you think it's going to go?
What I like is it's a completely different track to what we saw at Albert Park,
So we should
which
see something
means
different.
we'll see something different. It's difficult to overtake already in Australia. In China, it's a bit easier, but there's also a lot more braking zones, not a lot of straights, which means that we won't see the same kind of racing we saw in Australia.
Won't see as many boosts.
Yeah, it will be completely different, which
Okay.
I actually like that, because for me, all 22 drivers are on the same playing field. Like, they all have to figure out how to use this machine to the best of its ability and see how it's going to work with their particular engine and power units. So for me, I think going into China, I'm really excited to see what this weekend's going to bring, because it's really tight between the Mercedes and the Ferraris. So those are my two tops. But then I also think, like, I'm not going to underestimate Verstappen, because I think if Verstappen had started third,
you never can.
like Isaac Hadjar had started like really high up there in third, I think that he probably would have been on the podium. And I think that the fact that it's so... I can imagine all Red Bull fans are so relieved to know that they have two drivers now. Isaac Hadjar is on the level of Max Verstappen in terms of placing it, in terms of placing the car and filling the gap where your partner cannot. That's the point of having a teammate. Verstappen's out for the first time in how many years in Q1. Isaac Hadjar goes out and puts it in P3 behind George Russell and Kimi Antonelli. What other teammate in the last 2 years has been able to do that with Verstappen? No one. And the only reason Isaac was not in the top 5, which is what I predicted, was the fact that he had an engine failure and there was smoke coming out of his car, so he had to retire. I think that the Red Bulls are quite quick, maybe not as quick as what we see with the Mercedes, but guys, there's still so much that's going to be developed throughout the season. No developments in China for any of the teams, but I think that if you look at the top 4, they should be in the same order. And then best of the rest, got to give it up for Haas. Ollie Behrman, P7.
Really?
I mean, that was really strong. Great performance from him. Bortoletto in the Audi as well, scoring points, P9. And then Pierre Gasly rounded up the 10th position. Alpine. So I think it's a nice little mixed bag. It's a bit different. It's very competitive, lots of overtakes. It's just a matter of how everyone will fare at the different circuits.
Nice. It's going to be exciting. That's all I feel.
You 100% it's going to be exciting. Well, there you have it, folks. Delucia Daniels, of course, giving us the complete rundown of what we can expect in Formula One this year. Very, very exciting. I don't know. Where do you guys, where do you sit? How do you feel about Formula One? If you want to engage with us, then make sure you leave some messages in the comments and we'll try and catch up with them over the weekend and then try and answer some of them, or get Delucia to answer them, some of them at least, over the next couple of days. So make sure you do engage with us in the comment section below whenever you're watching this video. We're going to shift focus a little bit. There was some other sport that also took place. There was some rugby, as Adrian mentioned. There were Six Nations and the Blitzboks who performed really, really well. And then I suppose we've got to touch on the cricket, even though the Proteas weren't there. We still got to touch on the cricket and the fantastic performance from India in that final. Wowee. And then, so much other sport that Adrian, of course, also wants to unpack. Delucia's not going to leave. So if she wants to pass comment on the other sport, even though she's so heavily engrossed in Formula One, I'm sure she watches nothing else. But I'm sure here and there, she may be able to pass comment on the other sporting codes that are taking place. So Adrian, let's dive straight into the rugby from the weekend. My first question to you, I mentioned this at the beginning of the show. I'm going to continue with that train of thought. What's bigger? Italy beating England or Scotland beating France?
I think just purely from looking at it this season, I think France losing to Scotland by them conceding 50 points is
that's massive.
A massive statement. Obviously, they did fight back at the end to actually get 40 points on the board as well. But given that everyone thought how they played in their 2 opening games, this was going to be an easy Grand Slam victory for them in the Six Nations. It's not possible anymore. There isn't going to be a Grand Slam winner, which is always nice. It's always nice to see that there is sort of...
the love's being shared across the board.
Yeah, except for Wales. Wales is the only one that's not feeling any love right now.
Wales versus Italy this weekend is now going to be a cracker.
It really is. I mean, we have the situation now where... firstly, Scotland could win the Six Nations, depending on how they perform. That would be amazing. But also, Italy against England, massive. I mean, people were actually saying going into this, England could be the winners of the Six Nations. In fact, I think Rassi Erasmus said that himself, that he could see England winning the Six Nations this year. It just goes to show you can't write anyone off. Italy have been doing really well. They were very unlucky to lose their previous game. They could also be up there, sort of fighting for the number 1 spot. But obviously, 2 very good performances for both those teams. Not much to write home about when it comes to Ireland, Wales, obviously.
Do you know the fixtures for this weekend off the top of your head? Because I quickly want to run through, as it stands currently in the Six Nations, France lead the way on 16 points. Hot on their heels is also Scotland, also on 16 points. But they've got a 79 points difference in terms of France have a 79 points difference and Scotland only have a 21 points difference. In third spot is Ireland on 14. And then it's Italy with 9, England with 6, and Wales with 1 point, not having won a single game this tournament yet.
Yeah.
What do the fixtures look like this weekend? How many games are left?
So this is the last game week. This will be the
final round,
the
right?
final round, yeah. So everything to play for you, because we have Ireland against Scotland. Essentially, if Scotland beat Ireland with a bonus point, they are within a good sort of.
But they've got to win with a bonus point and a 50 point bigger margin than what who France playing?
Yeah, France playing England. So again, England.
Oh,
I feel like England have a lot to prove considering how they played last week. So I've totally see a scenario where England beat France, which obviously then take France out of contention, and as long as
Scotland got to get a bonus point.
Yeah. So if Scotland get a bonus point win and France just win, or even if France just lose,
where are France playing England is the real question.
They're playing at the start of France.
You see, that's a whole different
That
ball.
is.
The French at home and the French away is like chalk and cheese.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, I don't know.
Okay, well, stick your neck out now. You know my next question.
Yeah.
Where are we going with this?
Yeah, I think...
I know it's so difficult because nobody's actually on form.
I think I could see Scotland beating Ireland.
Really?
I can see that.
You see, I can't see that. That's the part that I just struggle
with the momentum. Because remember, Ireland have shown some weakness in this tournament as well.
But you not think Scotland played their final last week? Like that's to
maybe for them
put back-to-back performances like that together is extremely tough.
No, 100%. And I think
the high from last weekend just
for Scotland having already beaten England and France in this Six Nations
to go and beat Ireland as well. Then they deserve it 100%.
No, 100%. That's what I'm saying. I think for them, they are gonna be gunning for it because they have something to prove now. To already have beaten the best team in this competition, arguably, and your like rivals in England. I think they're going to be going for it against Ireland. Obviously, they're playing away as well. They're playing in Ireland, which is also tough. So I could see a scenario where Scotland beat Ireland. I could also see a scenario where France beat England, both with bonus points, and that means France will win given their score difference. So I think it could be wins for both of them, but France probably will take it still. But it will be less close than we thought it would have been.
Okay, so you're going France to win the Six Nations.
Yeah, probably. That will be most likely.
Yeah.
I
think both the winner of the Six Nations this weekend. Both of them are losing. It's who manages to pick up 2 bonus points.
Yeah.
And I've got a funny feeling it's going to be Scotland against Ireland because I think France will lose to England, and I think Scotland will lose to Ireland. But I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. And based on the fact I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, I think Scotland will pick up 2 bonus points for scoring 4 tries and losing within 7.
Okay.
France-England, I don't think is going to be the same.
That could also actually happen.
I hope I'm right, actually. I wouldn't mind seeing Scotland win that.
I also wouldn't mind. Especially, you would not have said this last week. You would have thought that would be a possibility.
Right? You'd have thought it's a foregone conclusion now, actually.
Yeah, 100%. But that just goes to show I'm really excited about what's happening up there in the Northern Hemisphere in terms of rugby. And obviously, heading into a World Cup year next year, it just makes things a lot more exciting that all of these teams are performing like this.
Yeah.
We
and
also
then very quickly, the Blitzbokke.
Yeah, Blitzbokke, obviously very proud of them. To go up against Spain as well. Spain are definitely, they've been the sort of dark horse this entire tournament. But obviously they lost in the final against the Blitzboks. Does mean now that the Blitzboks are in a very good position to win the entire thing, the entire season. It's basically only they or Fiji can win it now, based on the points.
Yeah.
Fiji are still on top. I think we head to New York for the next one. If the Blitzboks win New York, they'll win the World Series, as they call it. Fiji win it, they win it, basically, depending on who finishes higher between the two of them.
In the next in New York.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, that's really exciting.
So
I mean,
good.
the Blitzboks also made a couple of changes. I was I'm on a rugby group from Stellenbosch, of course, and a lot of the guys, they said, you pick a good guy to coach the Blitzboks and you get good results.
Yeah.
And they really are. Philip Snyman is doing fantastic work with that Blitzboks. And I watched them. They're not big guys, but they're explosive. They play for one another. They play at an intensity that's very hard to live with.
I think this is good because they know the standard they have. So they've obviously they haven't won every single tournament they've taken part in this year, but they know every time, like, we can do better. And usually you see teams, once they lose narrowly in a sort of 7 series, they don't come back the next match. Whereas we've seen the Blitzboks now, they won back-to-back, obviously, this time. But before that, their last win was in Cape Town only. They came very close the other rounds, but they said, no, look here, we know how we can play and we know we need to do better. And we actually saw that. It's one thing to sort of go out there and say, we can perform so much better. But to actually do it is a whole different thing. So
what do you make of this new format? Like
of the
the best versus, well, call it the best versus
Yeah.
the best. I'm not a big fan. I like to see more countries all together at one tournament.
It makes again, I think it's purely like a scheduling thing ultimately.
Yeah,
it's also
I
like
think
a sort of match balance, like to get like players to have less matches that
Yeah,
they play
yeah.
as well. I think that's purely where it's coming from. It's always nice to see more teams playing against each other, and so you're seeing more matches every week would be nice. But I think it makes sense from like a playing load perspective.
And then very quickly, while we're on the rugby topic, our friends are just a couple of 100 meters down the road here, the Stormers.
Yes, they're playing against the Bulls.
Against the Bulls this weekend.
In
I happened to
Pretoria.
spend some time with them this past weekend, and they're not too. There doesn't seem like there's too much concern or too much worry in the camp about the performances. But to go on a run of like 7 or 8 games unbeaten and then go on the trot that they've been now, losing to the Lions the last game.
Yeah.
I mean, what's going wrong there?
I'm worried. I'm a little bit worried because, like you said, we had that very good unbeaten run, and then basically just against all the local sides we've been losing. I mean, we lost back to back against the Sharks, lost against the Lions now as well. So I'm concerned going to the Bulls as well.
Well, this is actually the catch-up picture, right? This is the catch-up picture from December.
Yes.
I can't remember why that game was postponed or cancelled, but nonetheless, it's a catch-up picture.
But look, after this, we have a run of 4 home games.
Yes, and hopefully we can.
All against
pull things
international
together,
sides. So I'm hoping that the Bulls match sort of starts something new. You always need that shift. They've had a bit of a break. I was hoping that when they came back from their longer break last week against the Lions, they would have come back a lot stronger. But I think obviously they know what they need to work on. I can't tell you what exactly has gone wrong. I think
It's funny, when I was chatting to them, sorry I'm interrupting you, but when I was chatting to a couple of the coaches and in the sort of the inner workings of the Storms, they said it's small margins that have led to them. Like it's an ill discipline, getting a yellow card at the wrong time. A penalty, giving away a penalty that just changes momentum, not finding touch. Not sort of giving the opposition the ball because obviously the Stormers play with. They're not a massive possession side. They don't put the ball through hundreds of phases before they score tries. There's kind of that they want to work. They want to play over turnover. They want it to be exciting. They want to play in the wide channel. So I don't like it's difficult to put your finger on what exactly is the problem, but there doesn't seem to be too much concern. They think if they can just fix 1 or 2 of those small errors that they've made in the last 2 games, they will turn the corner again.
Yeah,
which is kind of like I am buying it, but I'm also not buying it.
It's just interesting because I saw Tony Brown actually. He was talking to the media, I think. End of last week. Yeah, he was saying that he's noticed with Sasha, like he's not relying on his teammates as much as he does for the Springboks, for example.
He's trying to do too much.
Yeah, he's trying to do too much by himself. So it's things like that as well, where I'm like, maybe it is just a fine tweaking. Maybe it is just getting the team more involved, looking at who you have around you and playing. I know they currently have a bit of an issue at lock. They're missing quite a few players. But hopefully a match against the Bulls at Loftus, if you can win that, you really can turn things around.
100%.
You just need a really positive result. And then that, also looking at that, we'll be playing at home against weaker sides, I would say. Hopefully, we'll again see a good 5-game unbeaten run. And then that will put us in a really good spot sort of heading into the playoffs.
Well, folks, we can sit here and talk about the rugby and Formula 1 and soccer and cricket and all the sport that's happening around the world, but we are running short of time. Very quickly, before we let you and Delucia go, quickly, what are you most looking forward to this weekend?
This weekend, Man United are back in action. We didn't see them last week. Maybe that's for the better.
I was gonna say that's probably good for you guys. Your heart rates are down.
One loss doesn't make us bad, but I need to see a performance this weekend.
Yes.
Can I just say something about you guys as Man United fans? You guys are so quick to say like this is not working.
Okay, we know, Delucia. We know.
Sometimes things take time.
Sometimes they do take time. I'm nervous because we're playing Aston Villa. That's going to be a match for third, basically. Aston Villa are just behind us on third. So
Liverpool going to have something to say about that.
Yeah, they really are. But
and you, Delucia? What you most looking forward to? Obviously, the Chinese Grand Prix. That's very exciting.
Some MotoGP as well this weekend. I'll be watching that.
Brad Binder finished 7th last. Hopefully he can get back.
Pedro Acosta is my man to win the championship. Marc Marquez won it last year, but I feel like Acosta can do it for us.
Really?
I really like him. I just think he's such a nice little fireball. So
anything with an engine, Delucia Daniels keeping an eye on it there. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us again. Play-by-play off air and online. Also, just a reminder quickly, you can catch the on-air product every Saturday morning, 8 to 9 a.m. Myself and Adrian talk all things sport. This weekend, actually, we've got Wayne Hector coming onto the show with us, a physio from former Stormers and Western Province physio. And we're going to chat to him a little bit about injury prevention, about injuries, how to manage them, what's the best way, overload, etc., etc. So if you have any questions for him, then make sure you also jump into that WhatsApp line over on Saturday between 8 and 9, and we can unpack everything that we're going to talk to Wayne Hector about on a Saturday morning. That's a wrap from us. We can catch you again next week, same time, same place. Have a fantastic sporting weekend. Chat to you later. Bye.